Hello, and welcome back to Even More News, the first and only news podcast. My goodness, my name's Katy Stoll.
Your goodness, my goodness too. Hello, I'm Cody. Hello, Johnston. Hi.
Hello, Cody. Hello, Johnston. Hi. We're thrilled to welcome first-time guest this week, journalist, YouTube host, and the newest writer for Some More News. Very excited to welcome Helen Floersh.
Yes, thank you so much. So stoked to be here. And you said my last name mostly right. So good job. Shout outs to you, Katy. Yeah.
I thought it. Jonathan's
also here, and we're going to throw him under the bus.
Jonathan is also here. Because I was pronouncing it Floersh.
That's even closer. Well, here's the thing. I'm not sure anyone actually knows how to pronounce it. You know what I mean? So really whatever you would like to do. But I'd like to say flourish, as in with a flourish, you know? Maybe it adds something to my aura. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I mean, it's a
Maybe
great
it's very
stage
brat,
name.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
I still don't know what that means, but it does sound brat.
We're working on it, right? We're all going to figure it out along the way.
I want to know what it means, but I also don't, because it's lame that me investigating
you
it.
Don't
you know?
need to know.
So I'm kind of like, cool, yeah. It's
I don't
brat.
know, guys.
It's going to be...
Yeah, I am a brat.
You're not going to want to know after like 3 weeks of the Democrats being like, it's Brat Summer, kids. Like, it's not going to...
Yeah.
It's made it to us, which means it's dead.
Yeah, we're not doing it. It's not
it's
based...
Exactly.
As they also...
It's another one that I don't feel like I'm allowed to use.
You shouldn't.
Like, I tried, and it's just too cringe.
I've seen David Sachs say things are based. Mm-mm. We're not doing it.
Oh.
We're not.
Oh.
No, we're not.
Fair.
Not
fair.
based.
It's not.
We like to start our shows by honoring some holidays. And boy, do we have some. Friday, July 26th, National Bagel Fest Day. Maury Lender, the owner of Lender's Bagels, founded National Bagel Fest Day in 1986. Murray started the festival in Mattoon, Illinois, home of the world's largest bagel factory. I don't know. That's fine. We enjoy bagels.
I do agree with
Full of gluten.
This note. Bagel Fest Day is redundant. It should be Bagel Fest or Bagel Day. We don't need to call it Bagel Fest. Yeah, it should just be
National Bagel Day. Well, you can't just say National Bagel Fest.
It's Bagel Fest.
Yeah, you wouldn't say Oktoberfest Day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a day where we hold bagel festivals.
Right. Yeah. Or a celebration of the festival. Or is it?
Also,
I don't know.
This isn't a national holiday. I never bring that up. Like, they always
None
say
of these are national
day.
holidays. That's true.
You know, I've never brought this up before about the bit that we open every show with, but
this isn't a real
holiday.
We don't celebrate these.
You ever notice that, you guys?
This is weird. It's something fishy here.
Because we don't get...
Something feels off.
We don't get off work for this. We're not... There's no celebration of any of these holidays for years. For 3 or 4 or 8 years. God, I don't know how long it's been. I don't want to think about it.
We should take this up with the National Day calendar. Jonathan, what's going on in the news?
Oh my goodness, another week.
I got to this quickly today.
We're on like 6 straight weeks of breathless introductions to the news because holy hell, it happened. It really happened. Joe Biden announced he would no longer seek re-election. The Democratic Party in record time came to an agreement, essentially. They coalesced around Kamala Harris. She is, are we calling her the presumptive nominee, or is it not technically presumptive? She's going to be the nominee right now, barring,
one presumes,
I don't know, another thing happening this weekend or next week or whatever.
Totally wild. I just want to acknowledge for myself and viewers and listeners, I truly, as we started this, I'm like, have we not, like, the news is such a soup to me the last few weeks. I just was in my head like, wait, we didn't talk about this last week. No, this is so recent. This has happened so fast. What did we talk about last week? Last week, Donald Trump being shot at. Maybe not actually being hit with a bullet, but being shot at. And I just had to sneak that in. Yeah. So my brain is just so chaotic trying to keep track of the fact
Oh yeah,
said everything is
was like we
dramatically
talked
different
about
every day.
this. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we have talked
We have.
about this, but the collective we has not. It's interesting. Yeah, it just immediately became Kamala, whether I'm not going to rag on Kamala. There's lots of hope happening right now. And it's very exciting to see this week. I never considered her a strong candidate since 2020. She became the vice president. And at the time, I was like, why? And here we are. And I'm thrilled at the groundswell of momentum. And I do think it's probably the most logical choice, especially with, you know, fundraising and campaign finance laws. But sources say that Joe Biden was very disgruntled by being pushed out and would only step aside if he got to choose the candidate, is what they're saying. And he just immediately barreled forward with it. And that's what happened.
Yeah, he's the president. He won the primary that we definitely had. Yeah, it's frustrating. You know, we'll have many months to talk about Kamala Harris, and she's already done and said some things that are good and done and said some things that are less good, and there are reports that are good and reports that are less good. And you know, the hope is that she kind of takes a lot of a cue from Biden domestically and doesn't push back a lot there, and also does push back on a lot of his foreign policy. She doesn't seem to care about NATO in their speeches, which is refreshing because I don't think anybody actually does, people who vote. But it is just sort of frustrating because, as we've said, it would have been nice if he did this many, many, many months ago, as he has now admitted was originally his plan to be a transitional candidate. He said that on camera years ago, and he said it on camera now.
We can't acknowledge that enough. I just want to interject to say we can't highlight that enough, because I feel like I got a lot of shit when I mentioned this several times, and people were mad at me.
It was not an official announcement. It was a lot of it was vibes, but he did intend to do that, and he did say out loud recently that that was his intention. But he didn't finish the job, so bad job, Joe. But it's just a little frustrating. Like, even in his statement, and he spoke. So he sent out a letter on Sunday, and then he spoke on Wednesday. And he's framing it like, and it's time for me to step aside and be the transitional candidate. And that is all well and good, but that's not why he's stepping down. He's stepping down because they were like, Joe, you got to do this. He wasn't going to. He had no intention of doing that. And if he did, then he would have spent his administration and his years as president lifting up people in the future to be these candidates, specifically Kamala. So it's obviously like the choices. This is the least chaotic choice, and makes various amounts of sense. And whatever, it is just sort of frustrating that we're at this point where, like, now, like, the narrative has shifted to, like, I'm a transitional candidate and it's time to pass the torch. Like, you didn't want to do that. You weren't doing that. You did a bad job of doing that, and that you could have done a much better job, and we wouldn't be in this position. But the enthusiasm is good.
That said, okay, so I did want to lead with some of that because those are my true feelings. I am genuinely thrilled to see the energy that's coming up, that people feel a week ago, despair, now hope. And that's so obviously important, because not just, regardless of the presidential race, I'm very concerned about people showing up to vote for down ballot races. And I feel much better. Okay. Anyway, Jonathan, how much has she fundraised?
I
can read it, but I'll let you do it.
Yeah, as of Wednesday, 1.4 million individuals had already donated $126 million to the campaign. We're either in a honeymoon phase, or that honeymoon phase may be ending if her statement about the protests for Netanyahu today are blunting it. It's very tough to tell from my perspective, because it's online. It's like vibes based. The nation's liberals may be so enthusiastic that it's not Biden and it's someone else, and it feels like we got a real chance to beat Trump now, that we're just going to cruise. Or, she could maintain his same policy toward Gaza and really blunt that enthusiasm, it's kind of tough to know what's going to happen over the next few months.
And there's like reports of like, certain donors trying to get concessions and, getting rid of Khan at the FTC, the various positions that Biden has appointed that were like good decisions. We've talked about on the show, this and the YouTube show, where it's, just, I don't know. It's hard to tell because they're just reports of like, well, donors give money and said this. We don't know what she's going to do in response to that. Although, Democratic Party, we can guess what will happen there, but we don't know. So it's just, let's ride it out. Let's climb that coconut tree.
Well, I actually kind of was wondering if anybody else felt this. I mean, there is a lot of excitement, and it's really, for the first time in a long time, kind of uplifting to be on social media instead of in this dark cloud of despair. I mean, there's still that too, but it seems like people are, if not like, elated, very cautiously optimistic. And I think it makes me kind of nervous because it feels like the higher you kind of elevate somebody, the harder they fall. And so, I don't know, I've just very, since 2016, it's giving me that 2016 energy a little bit around the Clinton campaign. And I'm like, this didn't end well. And I'm not sure it will again.
I totally have felt that too, especially like with a lot of like the memes and some of the taking of the memes from people who shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. Let people do that. The brat summer kind of thing. There's a way that this can go that is like overly confident and very like just 2016 coded in a way that is a little nerve wracking. I also do think we are in a different position from having Trump be the actual president for a while, and what we've seen with the Republican Party getting weirder and weirder, this parade of freaks that they continue to present us with, and Trump talking about Hannibal Lecter being real now, and like from the film Silence of the Lamb, whatever. But so I think it's slightly differently positioned, and I think he was even out on the trail saying like they're trying to do like the prosecutor against the criminal, and I don't think that's going to work. He thinks it's going to work. That's why he's saying it's not going to work. And I hope that they lean towards, there's rumblings of like, oh, we're going to lean in on like these guys are weird. I'm okay with that. Don't lean too hard on it. I think that could be off-putting, even though it's true. But they are, we'll talk about this. The governor, Waltz, I think, is the first one who said it. And now, like, all these senators are like, these guys are weird. It's too much, guys. You're doing it too much already. It's too much already. You need to cool it. Just because somebody says something correct and good doesn't mean you all need to start tweeting it.
I wish we recorded the first half of this week's episode like 3 days ago, so we were in full honeymoon, like, yep, we're all in the memes. Yeah. This is great.
It changes so fast.
And it changes so fast. And I don't want to say the vibes are bad now, because they're definitely better than they were and had been for months. Like, it does feel like a whole new ball game. It feels like the polls are tightening. There's just energy around it. It felt like we were dead. Mm-hmm. And now you can tell how overconfident the Trump team was, and they're worried about the Vance pick and stuff. But now it's like, now that the Kamala Harris campaign is releasing statements that are like, this guy's old and weird. I'm like, you're going to call him, like, let the media call him old for you. Don't you call him old, because we were just defending the old guy, or you were defending the old guy for months.
It doesn't quite work. But that was immediately like, no, we get to call him old and like he's losing. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's the immediate. It's true. He is old and he is not coherent often, but he never really has been. And it didn't matter the last two times. I mean, he didn't win the last time, but sure did get a lot of votes. It wasn't like a landslide. I mean, some people say it is. But it was. I mean,
both of the past
close.
Elections came down to like several tens of thousands of votes, and that's it. So it's going to be that way this time, no matter what, anyway.
But I do want to just piggyback on what you guys already have said. and full-throatedly agree that I feel nervous that this is just everybody jumping on a bandwagon and closing their ears and their eyes to the rest of the country and just assuming that this is landing when at the end of the day, we're pretty baked in to our ideological lines. And there are some people that are swayable, but like, I feel very worried about everybody having the same collective heartbreak because they're so focused on their girl boss and thinking that this is the one that will do it, that there's no way that anybody would vote for him over her. And just kind of like willfully being blind to the fractions here.
Oh yeah, that'll I think that'll come around for a lot of people because there is, it is still the honeymoon period and stuff, and like it is this just intense relief because also like for a while up until a few weeks ago, obviously the debate was the thing, but like it was real bad and it was really obviously headed towards disaster, and there was just this sense of like defeat and despair and just like we gotta like shove this guy over the finish line, and now it's an actual race, and that is just such a better feeling. And I think there will be triangulation and more focus, but the fact that there's so many, not just the number of donors, but the number of volunteers who are like, yeah, I'll get on the phones for this person. Because also, and I think this is honestly why the media, like one of the reasons the media was like, Joe, you can't do this anymore. We all saw the thing, because any like race like this, it's like you have to convince people to vote for a politician. And in order to do that, you have to convince the person that like a politician's like good. And that's a tough sell. And so you're always put in the position of not necessarily like lying, but just sort of like being like, and they're going to be great. And you should vote for this person. It's really hard to convince people to vote for Joe Biden at this age, at this time. And so now I think people are realizing, oh yeah, I'll volunteer and try to talk to people about her. I couldn't do that with Joe. It was going to be really hard because all they have to do is say he's really old and can't put a sentence together, and I have to pretend like he isn't and can. You don't have to pretend those things with her. So that's really good. I'll just say, like, again, like nobody who is in these circles listens to the show, but if there's one person, don't do coconut stuff, don't do the meme stuff, don't say they're weird every single day. Like Katie was saying, let everybody else do that. I saw Kamala give a speech that culminated, part of it culminated in just her like talking about all these things I want to do and stuff, and she's saying that we're not going back. And then people started saying we're not going back, and that's like really effective, especially compared to everything that the Republican Party wants to do, everything Trump represents. Vance out there being like, what if childless people shouldn't vote? Like, it's all trying to pull us back. And we have known that for years. And this is the first time I've seen that articulated so well by a politician in this simple, like, chantable thing that can be inspiring. We're not going back. It's a very effective message. Don't tarnish that by like, and Pokemon, get out there. Like, don't do it. Just like be normal. But Waltz can go out there and say that they're weird. It's fine when he does it.
Yeah, I think a problem that Kamala had in 2020 primaries, I think, if I'm remembering this properly, is trying to find her identity and persona out there. And it felt a little cringe at times. Like she's, the complaints in the left are that she's a cop. Valid complaints from the left, and trying to soften it, pull left. It's like a little bit like unclear where she is ideologically. They'll say, oh, she's even left of Biden. Is she? I don't know. I actually don't know where she stands. So I'm curious to see. I'm hopeful that they are really working hard with her on her authenticity and being really natural and normal feeling as we see her out there.
Yeah, being normal. Because she ran to the left of Biden in the primary. she called him racist in the primary to his face.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
She's like, I was the victim of racism, and you did it, sir. That was wild, but yeah, like obviously it's a primary. You're gonna triangulate and try to like find your place there.
Yeah.
But when she was a senator, when she didn't win. It was before she like introduced Medicare for All bill and like this kind of thing. So it's unclear. I think there is this sort of phase of like transitioning away from some Biden administration stuff, but it's not time for that yet. Maybe.
I think next to if Trump agrees to debate her, and I don't know that he will. He says he will. She, I think, is going to look normal in comparison. She might put it on a little too much, try to play up the laughter stuff, but I think she is, compared to him, very normal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for it. I think that it will be very exciting to see Kamala if she's prepared and I mean, it's a very stressful situation. I can't really remember her performance in debates in the primary. I don't think she landed well, but that was also a stage full of other candidates. It's a different beast debating in a primary versus debating in the actual general election. We have seen her excel in questioning people in Senate hearings. So it could be exciting. I did bring this up here to group, and they're like, "Oh no, Donald Trump will be a good match for her." And I laughed. I was like, "That's just not true." But maybe to them, like, I think that if you're talking to people that are ready to vote for Donald Trump, that anything he does that lands as funny to them will be him winning. But that's not who we're actually trying to reach in these debates. We're reaching those people that are on the cusp here. And so if Kamala can land her questions and stay composed and like keep composure enough. Yeah, normal, not old, not weird. Keep her composure enough not to let him rattle her. I think it will be very exciting to watch.
Yeah, we mentioned a week or two ago, there's this report of I think it's from like 2018, and it was her in a meeting sort of talking about like maybe running for president and stuff, and the topic was brought up of like, well, what would you do against Donald Trump? And you know, there's that moment, the particular debate where they were walking around and Trump was like a shark, which he fears. He'd choose the electricity instead of the shark. But he was like behind her and being like this weird little creepy weirdo. It was so off-putting. And she was like, I would have stopped talking and turned to him and go, why are you being so weird? And I think that's the kind of energy you want in the debate on the stage when he's being weird. You don't need to say it all the time because we know it, but like in response in real time to those things, that's when it's going to be effective. Other times just be like normal and be like a regular presidential candidate. And don't call them deplorable. I don't think that mattered. They're going to be mad anyway.
No, don't bully. Like, they're doing the bullying. Let them keep doing the bullying. I don't know.
I don't know how much it mattered, except that it became kind of a catchphrase. And also on the other side became like maybe a badge of honor even. Like, yeah, well, I'm deplorable then. And so it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help to, I guess there's arguments, tone things down. I don't want things toned down in the sense that people shouldn't be saying the truth or whatever, but I think tone down in like, don't make it personal against an individual voter who is trying to wade through it. Like when you're calling somebody names because of their political affiliation, which might just be because financially XYZ, they're confused. I don't know. I don't think it helps anything. That's my perspective now. I probably almost certainly had a different perspective back then, but that's my perspective now.
Yeah. But I think you can do that with the actual politicians effectively in certain scenarios. The actual people and the voters, I think it's not helpful. Yeah. Yeah.
I just mean like, but you know, Hillary Clinton was talking about, well, those people that support this man are deplorable. Well, f*** you is the response from them. That's not helping them feel included in something.
Also, she was right. But you don't say it.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna.
You can keep that to
Don't
yourself.
A lot of deplorable people support
probably
Joe
disagree.
Biden. So, like, it's,
But there's no winning over Trump voters. I think they understand that. It's about the groundswell of support. It's about independents who are kind of checked out and don't like politics at all and don't really want to think about it. And if you give them a message that they can listen to or paint the other guy as truly outside the norm that we don't want, and I think energizing the youth vote, again, to be seen if she can do that or if she blows it.
I felt a little bit of hope when she was not going to attend Netanyahu's meeting, speech, whatever. And then she posted this. We've got so many topics that we could talk about, but I might as well highlight that, we're still waiting to see who she chooses for her VP. Reporting does seem to suggest that Governor Shapiro is a leading candidate.
There's at least 12 people or about a dozen people that her campaign has, requested meetings with and information about, including some people who don't currently hold public office. We don't know those names. So yeah, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, because of his comments comparing protesters wanting a ceasefire in Gaza to the KKK and saying that boycott, divestment, sanctions is rooted in anti-Semitism. That would probably not be great. I think you could make an argument for Arizona Senator Mark Kelly because he used to be an astronaut. He's not really the best on labor. I would probably prefer an Andy Beshear from Kentucky or a Tim Walz from Minnesota. They seem to be on TV a lot, doing a really good job, and have done a lot of progressive things in their states. And I don't know that we know for a fact that picking someone from a specific state can deliver that state. Doesn't seem to be
help,
supported.
But
maybe governor's better than senator, but we don't know. There's other names: North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Pete Buttigieg.
Mayor Pete?
Is Pete Boo?
I've never heard that before.
Well, I said it.
Me neither.
JB Pritzker.
I mean, I really like Tim Walz, not just because he was the first guy to say that they're weird. Again, everybody else, stop it. Stop it. But he's great. I like when teachers are politicians. Oftentimes I think that teachers are valuable and good. And, there are bad teachers out there. There are really good teachers out there. But I have an affinity for that in politicians. Whatever. But also, as a governor, he's done a lot of really great stuff in his state with a very, very small margin in the legislature. I think it's like three or four seats, maybe. And I think the Senate's even. And he's done so many things: the universal school breakfast and lunch. A lot of stuff on climate, 12 weeks paid family leave, paid sick leave. He banned conversion therapy, various gun laws, universal background checks, red flag laws, just a long list of stuff that we wanted to happen nationally. That he is. We're
gonna have to make. I recently moved to the Minnesota shirts. Once I move there, apparently, look at all this stuff.
Look at it, that's also just part of it. 2 billion plus for school funding, a lot of stuff with elder care and nursing home workers and stuff like that. And that's in Minnesota, and he's just a governor, just doing his thing, getting stuff done. And that's good. And it does seem like he and Kamala have some related, some overlap in their focus on childcare and elder care, which seems like a really good thing for the nation and might actually be something that attracts older voters and maybe younger voters who want to start a family, and maybe can sort of put a damper on the opposition's claim that if you don't have kids, you shouldn't be able to vote. Maybe we can contrast that with some of this stuff. So he seems great, but whoever's going to be.
I want someone charismatic. I was like, I just like somebody who is just likable and funny and chill. I mean, and has good policy.
Sure. Helen, who do you have anybody on this list that you?
I mean, I was not super familiar with Walls's policies until like you brought. You convinced me. I mean, I saw you all wince at Mark Kelly. I have had this theory for a long time that he could bring folks together, and that might be because his policies are not the best, if that makes sense. So I was kind of, curious as to what, like, how successful that ticket might be. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a dream ticket at this point.
We don't get a dream ticket. We're never, like that's not.
Someone up here shared, apparently a lot of people on the right, they assume that Obama is the one that pulls all the levers in the government. Certain people, and I don't know, maybe he's got influence, but he's not some puppeteer. But the reason he hasn't endorsed Kamala is because he wanted it to be Mark Kelly. Is a theory that Obama wanted Mark Kelly, thought that was the right choice, that he would actually win, that he could, get leverage. I think that Obama hasn't endorsed Kamala because everybody has, and like maybe he's saving that to rebuff rebuoy the online enthusiasm when that time comes. I don't think that there's anything to that. But when you mentioned Mark Kelly, it made me remember that conversation I'd had, and I don't know.
It just seems like it's I guess perhaps it's just my own personal experience. It does seem like, if he can convince a lot of those guys, maybe, he can have broader appeal. But it's interesting you brought up the Obama thing, because I wonder you said somebody mentioned that to you, because I was just reading this morning. So I guess is a rumor that's getting around. I think Obama is just holding out, like you said, his strategic more than anything else. And I think he's probably about to endorse her. Like his endorsement needs to stand alone in order for that to maximize its effect. And as long as everybody else is piling on, it gets lost underneath.
I think it's probably smart to wait, because like it's gonna dip, like we've talked about. This is the honeymoon phase. This is the flush of enthusiasm, but it's gonna be a journey. And so I do think it's probably strategic. Or he really wants Arizona Senator Mark Kelly to be president, and he's furious with Joe. Furious.
First time he's ever been mad at Joe.
That's it.
He should go for Andy Bashir so he can say, "Let me be Sheer." That's just my personal.
Oh, that's real good. Oh, that's real good.
You're not wrong.
Real good.
I do think that would make sense. Like, there's like 3 weeks to the convention or something like that. You want to spread it out. Also, a poll just came out yesterday. Obama is still so popular, like with everybody. Like obviously, like there are people on the right that like hate him, and he's a secret like Muslim Marxist, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But he is still broadly very, very popular and liked. So yeah, it's going to be more effective if he's just like, here we go. Here, I'm going to say it now too.
I think not everyone. I think the parties wish it could be Obama versus Trump, and the Democrats are not about to get rid of that amendment that says you can't have a third term, because then we get Trump forever. But like, I do think, Obama would beat Trump, but
if those term limits weren't in place, Obama would still be the president.
Right.
People hate it when I say that.
It's true. He like regardless of your opinion of him as like his policy, what he's done, whatever, he would still be the president.
What is funny, like a lot of Trump voters believe that is actually the case, and it's really bizarre. Like literally, like he's in the basement, just like telling them what to do and all this stuff, and you're like, well, how is Biden president?
He's making Netflix shows.
Yeah, Obama's president, but Trump's also president. It's just a bizarre, like there's a whole thing, and it's just like, what is this math?
I think it's the good liars who talk to that person. Right? One of the good liars talked to that lady who's like,
I think we saw the same thing.
Right,
yeah.
Where like Trump's actually the president right now, but Obama's telling Biden everything to do, and he's like, well, why would Obama be telling Biden anything to do if Biden's not really the president? It's like, it's a fun gotcha thing, but it is tough to parse who
I
broadly
just
people think
haven't
is really
Who is-
running.
seen
What's the
any
conspiracy?
evidence
It's-
that Obama is the puppeteer that they think he is.
Also,
But
when he
I don't
is,
know.
we know it, right? Like, we know that he had these phone calls during the primary to get people to drop out and endorse Joe Biden. We know that. We know, like, when he broke the NBA strike and stuff. It's reported when Obama is, like, doing stuff behind the scenes. We don't need a grand conspiracy that he's actually doing everything that you don't like. Unless he's doing everything we don't like.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? They could all be. We're the suckers.
Cody, did you want to keep talking about JD Vance?
We don't need to
Do we
too
want to
much.
talk about Elon Musk?
We'll transition to Elon Musk because they're kind of related, actually. I just wanted to revisit the JD Vance conversation. I think this will be an ongoing situation until Trump drops it.
Yeah.
But
inevitable.
we're talking about
That'll be
his.
so
I'm
funny.
still going to be in the minority
I know.
on this, but I'm also not going to disagree.
You
with
can
what you're
disagree.
saying.
No.
Okay, I'm just getting ahead of this right now.
It's great. We love it. My theory, which we've talked about before, and again, they're like going all in on it. I don't think they need to lean so hard in this, but Trump and his little gaggle of freaks are freaks. They're weirdos. If you watch the RNC, it's a bunch of weirdos yelling about like stuff that like they like from the 50s that they want to do. Like, it's just very off-putting and weird. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Even if you look at, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, JD Vance, I think, is a good example of this. He is this, opportunist, like fraud, venture capitalist who's pretending to be from Appalachia. You're from Middletown, Ohio. You can hop in the car and drive to Kings Island in 20 minutes. You grew up in the suburbs of Ohio. Sorry, Vance.
Spoken like someone who also grew up in Ohio, at least part of the time.
Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs of Ohio. And I wouldn't be like, actually, I'm a hillbilly. Like, that's not going to fly, Vance. Sorry. But so he's a fraud, Ivy League education, all the kind of stuff. But also, and his personality's not pleasant. That's a matter of taste.
He is the, according to a CNN poll, the least liked vice presidential candidate since 1980.
Like, this is my point. Like, he is broadly, and it's just a poll, the least liked candidate for vice president since the 80s after a convention. I think maybe he doesn't quite have the juice to do this on a national stage. We've already seen him try to riff like Donald Trump. He can't do it. He's not the riff master. Sorry, you can't be like, Diet Mountain Dew is racist now. Right, guys, folks, in the front? And then, like, there's dead silence. It's like, hi, you guys. Nobody's laughing, Vance. You're making it worse. But aside from the personal stuff, the things he says are off-putting and weird and very overtly anti-democratic, and not in like the vague, like pro-democracy way, in a very explicit way. If you're talking about how you think that, well, okay, so kids have a vote, but their parents get that vote. And if you don't have kids, you actually have less of a right to vote than if you have kids. We don't need to unpack that a whole lot, but there are like many questions I have in response to that. Well, what if you want kids, but you can't have them? What if you adopt kids? What if you know kids? What if you have nephews or nieces? What if like you just want, like, there's so many questions for that. It's the same with Vivek.
What if you physically can't have kids?
Yeah, like there's so many reasons. And what if you're trying to have kids? Do you get like a temporary vote because you have the intention there? It's the same series of questions I would have for Jordan Peterson or these other freaks when they're talking about like, you can't, gay parents shouldn't adopt or this or that. It's like, well, is it the act of kids? Is it like there's so many questions. It's a bad position to have, but also it's weird and it's off-putting and it is anti-democratic in the like simplest definition of the word. It's a fascist idea of how voting should go. You're actively excluding a group of people from the democratic process explicitly. It's gross, and people should be aware that he thinks these kinds of things, whether or not he's always thought that, or if it's the Peter Thiel money or whatever. It's not going to be a popular position, is my position, I guess. You
are correct. Look, people watching last week, Cody and I talked about this a bit. We talked about it on our Google Hangout this week. Shout out to our Patreon. And I don't disagree with anything you've said, but my position this time has been like, I don't think he's as off-putting to Trump voters as we all assume. And he is certainly making his bed out there. You know, when I saw him speak at the RNC, it's like, and it, to me, I'm like, actually, he's not that wild of a choice for XYZ, lots of reasons. But of course, there's statements like this. It's not good. I'm not convinced that it matters that much to people. I think it might to people on the cusp that are still figuring out what their vote lies, where it goes. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, nobody cared much for Mike Pence. It doesn't super matter. It's a surrogate. But now he's going out there and saying stuff that is very weird, but it's only been 1 week. We'll see how he adjusts, how things change. I know that there's lots of reports that Trump is very upset and, you know, they might change the ticket. Can he even change the ticket? The
Sure.
RNC is
He can do whatever.
Like, I mean, I'm just truly am asking that as we were talking. It just occurred
I
to
don't
me,
think
like,
ballots
is that
are.
even
Well, I
possible?
don't know. But also, it's VP, so
I
like
mean,
you're still
for
voting. You
all
would still
the
be voting
people
for
that
Donald
are-
Trump on the ballot, right?
But they're both
Right.
on the
But for
ballot.
They're
all
both on there,
they're
but
on the
I don't know.
ballot. And like for all the people saying it's, you know, on the right saying it's too late now, whatever, maybe they've quieted down. But at first few days with Kamala, it was like, well, that's not legal to switch out your candidates and stuff. So I truly am asking that sincerely.
Well,
Like,
it's
I don't
legal.
know
It's
if
just
you
a
could.
party
But,
policies and stuff. You know.
the stuff like the couch. Look, a funny little thing that happened online. And I know that we talked before we started recording that Donald Trump is pissed about that because he doesn't
I'm
like
just-
to
that's
be
just
made
an assumption
fun of
I'm
in some
making.
capacity. It's an assumption, but you know, people have said it. I don't know, because what it actually is not true. It's a joke
no way to
thing
prove
that
it's not
people
true, but-
posted online. There's no way to prove. But they claimed that it was from his book.
It's
and
not
it
from his
was
book.
not.
That's true.
All that really does is create noise. Then it's like they all lied about that. So it almost, in my mind, kind of diminishes some of the stuff that is valid
The
about
media
him,
told the truth
potentially.
about it. Actually, it's just
But
memes.
I mean, you know, I know, but you're understanding
I
what
know,
I'm
I
saying.
understand.
Is that it almost detracts.
I'm not
from
saying
the
that stuff
valid-
moves the needle at all in any direction. And like, you know, again, like this isn't even about like, I know Trump fans are going to be like, Vance is great. He's my favorite big boy. I've wanted a living doll to be vice president since I was a baby, you know, like they're going to do that. But I think that like, what you said, there's the people on the cusp are who I'm really talking about. Like, I think and a Trump person hearing like, maybe if you don't have kids, you shouldn't vote. Like they're going to do their little brain magic to make that a fine statement, or like he changed his mind, whatever. They're going to forgive that. But I think, sorry to people listening, normal people are going to hear that and not be that same camp. But also like the couch thing, I only think it's funny. And I think it just is indicative of the type of guy that Vance is, who is the type of guy you can say wrote about couch and people would be like, wait, did he do that? And then you look into it and the news has to report, no, he didn't the couch. And that's the kind of thing that I think Trump sees and goes, man, I picked a loser. Whether or not he changes his mind or does anything, I just think that's the kind of way Trump looks at the media. It's not just like any bad story is a good story. It's that this makes him look kind of a loser. That's conjecture. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I think if Trump got rid of Vance, it would be out of spite's the wrong word, but revenge, which is a silly take, okay? But he did, compare him to Hitler, or say he's America's Hitler, right? And this is also the man who was, I mean, this is Donald Trump of The Apprentice. Like, you're fired isn't his vocabulary, and I wouldn't put him past him to try to humiliate Vance by kicking him off for perhaps saying that he is a loser and, you know, all of these other things. I mean, is that likely to happen? No, that's probably just, you know, some silly, like I said, headcanon for me, I guess. But
dreams, you know, like
yeah,
It's
you
just
know,
like if we were scripting this.
it would be so funny. The
Exactly.
funniest thing to happen to JD Vance specifically is to get chosen for this ticket and then be kicked off a couple of weeks later,
After 2
partly
weeks.
because people just like kind of bullied him a little bit and made fun of what a loser he is.
Well, I just kind
So
of,
funny.
I don't know.
It's so funny. Like his career
So I'm
over.
not saying this as firmly as I did last week because I am curious to see how all of these things land. But I don't know that JD Vance matters enough to change people's mind that if somebody's like waffling, they're like, I don't love Donald Trump, but I did think that the country ran better or my finances looked better when he was president. I doubt that JD Vance running his mouth changes that opinion. The reason why the Hitler thing, I think, doesn't bother Trump too much is that JD Vance has fallen in line with him. That's a feather in Donald Trump's cap. And if there's one thing he can be, it's malleable. And what Donald Trump wants is somebody that is going to back him up and, you know,
Oh, yeah. I mean, they definitely had that conversation. Like, he and JD had a conversation in a room, and JD said, you won't have to hang me. I'll do whatever you want. Like, that conversation happened.
Exactly. And like, that's what he wants. But I don't know that any candidate changes Donald Trump's electability factor. Like, I don't know that anybody detracts. There's some people that could probably add to it more, but I don't.
So this is like, I don't disagree with you at all. My position is it might not move the needle either way. VP picks generally don't really matter in that way unless, okay, maybe they help with this particular state, right? But I also think there's something about Vance that might just change my mind about that assessment. I don't get it, and we'll be talking about this a long time, and I know people really like him. I don't get it.
I have I guess it's a take or a theory that if it works out for the Democrats and Kamala Harris wins, and if she wins in a big way, it will become much more normal to dump candidates later than we have in American history. It could become just a normal thing to be like, not polling well in September, we're going to change the laws to change when ballots get printed, you're out, new person in, let's do this. Especially even if it doesn't work out for them, if Trump boots Vance. I just think it would be so funny because he'd be like, no, we're going to take the narrative back. I'm going to boot him and we're going to go with this guy
And it would
now.
backfire.
You know?
Everything they've done in the past few weeks have backfired so much. It's so funny. I have thought that, though. I think that there is an element of this that at least because, as we've talked about so many times, there should have been a primary this year, like a robust primary where Joe Biden was like, as I have made clear, I'm a transitional candidate and I will be stepping down, even though I love this desk so much. I also love the country more, and I'm going to help this and support we'll look at all the wonderful candidates in our Democratic Party that I support all of. Choose one. And the fact that this happened, I do think might lead, at least in like 2028, like the idea that like you never have a primary when there's an incumbent president has been like pretty locked in party wise. And I think maybe that will sort of crumble at least.
One would hope.
And then if Vance gets
don't
dropped
know.
because of the couch thing, then all bets are off.
I think it would be worse for them to drop him.
Oh,
I think it would look too disorganized.
It would look
I
like a mess.
don't actually think that would happen. Legal or not, I don't know that it would happen.
I
Probably
also
not.
think it's
not be the best.
unlikely. I just think it'd be funny.
It'd just be funny. Because
it would be so funny.
It'd be so funny. And that's this year. You know, we just need a little bit of that. Like, God, it'd be so
Al
funny.
Franken as
Celebrity.
VP,
But
come
also, I
on.
do think
Trump Franken.
to put a pin in this, I guess, because we'll talk about it forever. But like, it's not just him; it is the things he says, and he has been. Whether this is stuff from like, you know, if it's something he read in like a Curtis Yarvin blog, or if it's a Teal thing or whatever, he's got some weird ideas that most people don't think are good, I think. And I think hammering him on those things, and maybe he'll just pretend he changed his mind. That might work. I don't know. But just hammering on these ideas, because Vivek did it too. He wants to like raise the voting. Like, it's all exclusionary. It's excluding people from democracy. It is anti-democratic. And if you're talking about women and parents in this way, a lot of people aren't going to like that. And it kind of dovetails into this thing. They're very, you know, with Kamala, they had to send out a memo to like, stop being racist, guys. Like, stop being racist towards Kamala Harris in the party. To listeners, clearly, like, they had to send the GOP sent out a memo, like, they said race comments. They said stop being racist. And we're seeing a lot of, and we've seen this, we saw it with the Hawk girl, like, just like this weird like thing that happened that everyone was like, what if we were just like disgusting about women for like a few weeks? And we see it on X, the Everything app, all the time as well. The Andrew Tate of it all, and these guys, particularly Vance, has been absorbing this for a long time, and he believes these things and says these things. And I think that highlighting that nature of it is important, because when you're talking about, you know, well, maybe if you don't have a child, you should not be able to vote, or like if you do, you should have more power, and this and this and this, and if you like actually have an investment in the world, like this is all just a slow path towards. And also, like, you know, if you're you know, a family and you have kids, you have more voting power. And if you're the head of the household, and maybe like the mother is staying home and taking care of the kids, okay, she has an investment, but you have an investment in the world and society at large. So maybe actually the head of the household should be able to vote. And that's the only person who should be like, it's all, that's what I mean when I think highlighting we're not going back is really important, because that's what they all want to kind of do. And I think highlighting that and making them pull back on it, making Trump be like, no, that's, what a freak, what a weirdo for saying that, is important to do.
I worry, sort of like bouncing off what Katie said, I worry that there's people don't, I don't know. I say people, and I want to backtrack because I'm like, I don't want to, you know, kind of just throw everybody under this umbrella. But it's kind of feels like maybe it's because he's just VP, you know, maybe it's because, I don't know, I guess lately it's felt like, you know, misogyny is as mainstream as it ever was, if not more so, that I'm like, I don't know if people are going to care that much about the things that he says. When women will, but they were already gonna be, you know, I don't know.
I will back you up on that a bit. Again, there's no knowing, but wild things that have felt like deal breakers. The last 10 years have been filled with them. Filled with things where my instinct has been, well, there's no coming back from that. There's no way somebody would vote for that guy. And I was wrong. And we've seen that time and time again. So whenever I say, or whenever we start to giggle about something one of these candidates says, or like, can you believe this guy? There's something in me that cringes and being like, that's hubris, because actually, for a variety of reasons, it doesn't necessarily land that way. No, and also, I don't think anybody actually believes that that's something that he would do. I don't think that most people in that party are like, would go along with that. Maybe some people would, but I think it's a thing that he said, probably because some people agree with him on that, a small percentage of people. But like, I just don't think that lands as something that would actually happen. Just like people on the right do not think that there's any risk that Donald Trump would try to not leave office. We do. We're very concerned about that for good reason.
He did.
But I'm saying, right. But I'm saying, like, there's no way that he's going to try to take this second term into a third. You're out of your minds if that's what you are worried about. So I just think there's also a lot of assumptions that the Democrats are sensationalizing things or overly concerned about, you know, and make a mountain out of a molehill or whatever. And so they're very quick to write that off, just the same way a lot of us maybe were quick to say the media is misrepresenting Joe Biden's age. You know, the right-wing media wants us to think he's old and decrepit, and then we saw that he was.
Well,
anyway,
I mean, we thought he was
over the place here.
Yeah.
I know, we did,
I think
but a lot of people didn't.
There's value in mocking the people who believe these things and verbalize it, even if it's 100% true that millions of people will still vote for that candidate and a small percentage of people will agree with what they say. But I think when it comes to fascists, mockery is a very good and valuable weapon, I think, for the opposition to have. And I think no matter how many times we'll be able to say yes, but there will still be people who vote for them, we're going to have to point out, like, look at these freaks. Look at what's been normalized. Look at what we're talking about here.
That's generally my position too, because I don't disagree with anything either of you said either about this, because I don't know, and I don't know people who do think this or don't, or like, I don't know everybody, but I do think, because like what we've been saying, if we believe that these things are bad, and this is a proto-fascist, if not a fascist party that is trying to steal democracy, he tried to do it, he'll do it again. If we do think these things, then I don't think we should pretend otherwise. I don't think we should try to like be like, oh well, you might think this or might think this, and like, I don't know, it's not like, I think we just be like, no, this is an anti-democratic position. It is a misogynist position. It is leading towards this old way of doing things, and if you agree with that, then you need to say that you agree with that, and then we can go from there. So I don't disagree that like it might not matter, and there might be people who don't care, and there might be people who like really do agree. But if he's like, him saying this 8 years ago, he wouldn't be in politics anymore. Like he literally just said like, yeah, I think fewer people should vote. That's a new thing to be a popular position, and we need to be able to say it's bad. You know,
I agree. I'm not saying that we don't call it out. I do think with everything, there's a balance, because at a certain point, it's, you know, no news is bad news. Donald Trump, everything, the whole thing we heard in 2016 and beyond was like, we're giving him oxygen, you know, and feeding it. So there is an element sometimes, I wonder what the balance is, but I absolutely do not disagree. We sit here and we talk about these, and it needs to be said. Otherwise, it's normalized. Otherwise, people don't notice it's happening. So, but it's the same thing as the weird comment, which, by the way, we've all used weird quite a bit today to talk about them.
Yeah, they're weird. It's weird.
It's like what's the balance of like how much are we going to freak out about JD Vance?
Sorry.
You know, no, go ahead, Jonathan. I was done. I was just
it's
meandering.
scary to me how much it's been normalized. We saw a story yesterday that Trump thinks people with disabilities should maybe die.
Yep.
And it's like a blip in the news. His nephew is like,
it's his nephew too.
His
It's like
nephew
the
said,
mainstream media. It's
my
his
uncle
nephew.
Donald Trump said to me that maybe my disabled son should die and I should move to Florida. And it's like, well, what are we gonna? What's even the point of? It's like, no, you gotta say that the guy who could be president believes that, even if you won't do anything. But like,
right?
I don't know that anyone's gonna feel very good about. Maybe Trump won't do anything about that.
It's explicitly eugenics. It's the kind of, it's this thing, and we've talked about it again for like however many years. This concept,
10
oh God, but this concept of like useless eaters, like, well, they're draining society. They have all these resources. Maybe they should just die. That's Hitler stuff. I'm sorry. I'm not going to stop being like, well, a little shrapnel hit his ear. No, that's Hitler stuff. Stop saying it. If you want us to stop saying that he's a fascist saying these horrific things, then he shouldn't say those things. I disagree that disabled people should just die. And if you agree with that they should, and you want to vote for Donald Trump because of that, you should be able to acknowledge that that's what you're saying and doing. I'm just kind of tired of like well, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. Get your feelings hurt. Facts don't care about your feelings. Well, he said that.
I'm not worried about hurting people's feelings with it. I'm just saying the right amount of attention. And I wasn't even talking about the disabled thing. I think that is an important thing to explore. But in general, I think that there is a balance. I don't know.
I know there's definitely a balance. And like I get worked up about this, and it's not like directed at you. I'm just it grosses me out so much. And like I'm also just kind of tired of like these are things that people say, but I'm tired of like, well, he's not really going to do that, or like, well, he doesn't really mean that, or like, he changed his mind. Like, they shouldn't have said it. It's evil.
The disabled, I was just reading that this morning. That does seem to be getting surprisingly little attention. And I actually feel like that's the kind of rhetoric, that folks who are diehard Trumpers, and again, I mean, I'm thinking of this truly in the context of my own experience growing up in Northwest Tennessee that is hardcore Trump land, right? There are a lot of folks who have kids with disabilities. There are everywhere, but it does seem like there's, you're at the intersection of poverty and of all of these other things. And for this guy to say something like that, I just think this is the kind of thing that could actually potentially change people's minds, because you are truly seeing, evil at its most evil, I think. And it's like, this is something that it's like, whoa, wait a second. I mean, hating women's fine, but you're not gonna, I have a kid, and it gets a little, it starts to change things a bit. It's a line that's crossed when you start to talk like that. And there's a million lines before that should have been too many, also
course,
not,
yeah.
Right. Sorry, I get rambly when I'm worked up, but yeah, it's just kind of like, yeah, this is frustrating. This is getting so little attention, but maybe it's just because it just came out.
Yeah,
maybe there's just denial. There's just
he didn't say it like on a public stage. This is
right.
A report that came out from his nephew, and not that makes it any less relevant. I just don't know that it's broken through.
Yeah, why not?
We'll see how that story evolves. Donald Trump also just says that's not in defense of him, but it's wild, the stuff he says. He suggested putting bleach.
Yeah, the media lied about that too.
And then they'll always say they lied about it. He just says whatever. And that's what's also so fucking dangerous is you're like, I don't know where he stands on anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that is true. I prefer to reserve that kind of thing for the bleach thing. What if you put bleach in it? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe these people should die. Is not just something you say. That's something he's thought about or thinks. And it's such an extreme thing to say when you're the president. I don't know. I wanted to talk about this partially, too, because...
He just said it about his...
We said it generally. Nephews. No, he said like maybe people with disabilities should just die because they're a strain on resources. Like that.
At first he said maybe these people, should die because of the expense. And then on a separate occasion, he told his nephew... I don't know if I can give any more money. He doesn't recognize you. Yes, he does. But he said he doesn't recognize you. Maybe you should just let him die and move down to Florida.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one that I...
He's a bad person.
He's a terrible person. And that's why like, I'm like, they're freaks and they're bad. They think bad things should happen to people. I like part of the reason I wanted to bring this up is because also, so Helen, you wrote a few episodes actually that haven't even come out yet, but the first episode that aired was about brain chips, and partly Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain chips. And I thought, so there's this interview with Jordan Peterson that came out recently with Elon Musk. One of the things, I think it's interesting that he's like kind of like pulling back on this, like, I'm actually not doing it to Donald Trump. I don't like cults of personality. I'm Iron Man, by the way. Absurd thing. What a like freaky liar. But he like his pulling back on it, and this is sort of what I am kind of alluding to. Well, if you're Donald Trump and you think that people with disabilities should die, that's an indicator that maybe you shouldn't get support from somebody like Elon Musk, who claims that his brain chips are to help people with disabilities. Like, he is allegedly pro-humanity and pro-helping people. And maybe the guy you're trying to hitch your wagon to believes literally the complete opposite. Not only should we stop putting money into these projects to help disabled people, we should spend less on them and let them die, is his position. And it seems to me, at least there's this moment in the Peterson conversation where they're just talking and Elon talks about like an injury he has, and Peterson talks for a few minutes about how he should try the carnivore diet. And he keeps saying, try the carnivore diet. It cured my wife of all of her ailments. She, for 40 years, couldn't lift her arm above here. And now she can because of the carnivore diet. And like, you can see Musk like being like, I mean, I like meat. And Peter's like, but you gotta, this, it's all beef. It's all beef. You gotta, then they've changed your life. And he's like, I got nothing against eating meat. I think I'll get surgery. And like, it goes on. And it's this moment of like, and I don't think it'll take, because he's in his bubble and he's a freak and he's, he's got his own thing. We talk about him all the time. You know his situation. But there's this moment where, like, you can tell he's like, maybe the people I've boosted and surrounded myself with on X are actually really weird and off-putting. Like, it's like you can see him in real time. Like, I like beef. I eat meat. I'm going to get surgery for my injury. Like, it's like he just doesn't know.
I laughed out loud when Elon goes, I'll probably just get surgery.
It's
or
so
something.
funny. Like, it's like he stuck himself so deep, and now Abe looking around is like, oh no, who did I give shovels to?
Yeah.
Like,
usually in a sketch with Elon Musk and someone else, Elon's the unusual one, and Jordan Peterson just makes him the voice of reason, having to push back against the Jordan Peterson stuff that he's saying, like, oh, you really need to try all beef. My wife,
it's so weird and funny.
Yeah.
What is the meme? Not the memes, TikTok or something. You ain't gonna match my freak. It's a song. His freak has been matched and excelled.
They've excelled his
far surpassed the freak.
Far beyond his freak, and they're in the.
I think it's so funny to me too. I like just the thought of Elon being like, "Wait, what have I done?"
Like, again, like, it won't take.
No, bro,
But you can see it. He's like,
oh no.
Oh, you're weird, man. Like, weirder than me. Because also in that conversation, he talks about his daughter in the most disgusting way. That I guess we can talk about too if we want. It's a part of this interview that, it's these two freaks talking to each other. But there's this part where he talks about his daughter and how she's dead to him. And he said, like, my son is dead, and that's that. And he also tells this story about how, like, well, actually, I always knew that they were gay when they were, like, because when they were 4, they would pick out shirts for me and call them fabulous, and they liked musical theater. First of all, I read that and I was like, that's a lie. Like, that obviously it's a lie. That's what are you talking about? They're 4 and like, you have this like weird like judgment. It's so weird. And like, he chose these stereotypes, but also, who else calls everybody fabulous and loves musical theater? Donald Trump. All the time. His favorite musical is Phantom of the Opera and Cats. He calls everybody fabulous.
Cats?
You're just describing. He loves Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's like his favorite songwriter.
Cats?
I know. But
the worst.
he loves it. It's very funny. But I read that description. I'm like, no, you're describing Donald Trump. You're not describing your child. But aside from that, it's these like very basic like 90s, like late 80s stereotypes of like how gay people are. And I read that, I was like, that's a lie, you liar. Aside from like the disgusting aspect of saying this thing and saying it in a public setting, in a forum, it's going to be recorded and posted, about your daughter, who will see that. What a bad father. Also, he said he was tricked into signing for like puberty blockers. You sound like easily duped idiot, my man. If you were tricked into this, maybe you didn't know what you were talking about. But also, like, it's pretty clear that like, he's not talking about puberty blockers, probably. Anyway, regardless, his daughter came out and was like, yeah, that's a lie. None of this is true. He made all of this up. And she goes into detail, and it's just, I don't know. That guy, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, that guy. No, it obviously, of course it was fake. And that was the best part of Vivian coming out and saying that, you know, I love that. I'm actually looking at it right now. My best guess is that he went to the Milo Yiannopoulos, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, I don't care, f that guy, School of Gay Stereotypes, just picked some at random and said, good enough, in a last-ditch attempt to garner sympathy points when he is so obviously in the wrong. It's just like, yeah,
I mean,
it's
she
just
specifies
unreal.
he wasn't even around when she was a child.
Yeah.
That this is nothing, you know, this is not based in any sort of reality. It's all just, he's literally using her as publicly to make points that are unfounded and bullshit and play to his Twitter crowd. And
Yeah. Also, I mean,
I feel terrible for her and also proud of her because she's just like, no, fuck this.
yeah.
No.
Like, call me like,
He's not actually my father, and I will call him out on it. And
call him ketamine fueled. Also,
Anyway.
I just wanted to point out, she did say that like he made this thing up. It's like, and you're saying like he wasn't there. He wasn't there as a father.
exactly.
And she also
Wasn't there
says,
as a
and in the
child.
little time that he was, I was relentlessly harassed for my femininity and queerness. So like, maybe he's just a piece of shit and a liar, and needs to make his website better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Fix
good
that.
for her for
Fuck off.
coming out and,
Yeah.
and pointing all this out. But it's also just, I thought it was funny because it's like, it's so obviously a lie. And like, we didn't need her to confirm this. It's a lie. And we also obviously knew, like, yeah, like you have a trans daughter. Of course you got mad and bought Twitter. That's why. And we know that. And him just saying it and admitting it is also funny.
okay, we are
We're
super
super
over.
Yeah.
We got to wrap this up. Helen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for writing for us. We're
I
very
love
excited.
it. You guys are the best. I'm super just honored and thrilled. Thank you. Yeah.
We're so excited to have
We've got
you.
More
We've
of your
got
work in the
I'll
pipeline.
say, yeah, we've more in the pipeline. I'll say not next week, but the week after. We have her next episode, which is about climate change and Jordan Peterson. So maybe people will care about climate change in that
And
context.
if you haven't seen her recent episode on Neuralink, check that out.
It's very good. I get my brain zapped.
Helen, where can they follow you online or whatever? Anything else to promote?
Yeah, so I'm reluctantly back on X with a, let's see, what is my handle these days? It was Silly Meatbag for a while, but I had to change that as I was applying to
fun.
jobs. So, and I might change it back now that I've scored a new one. Okay, so at Helen Floersh, Floersh is how you spell my last name. I'm also rarely on Instagram. If you like to look at pictures sometimes, if you're a visual person.
I do.
But yeah. And Threads on there too. You know, all over, rarely
over.
posting, but yeah.
We're posting. We're out there.
Check her out and keep your eyes peeled for more fabulous
scripts
I don't know.
that we
It's the word
have.
that came out.
Fabulous indeed.
Spectacular.
And, you know, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching the video version. Those of you who are watching the video version, that's a sincere thank you. We've been meaning to do this for a while, and I think it's kind of fun. And shoot, am I forgetting anything? Am I forgetting to tell you that we love you very much?